A teenager is fighting for his life after being stabbed on the streets of London as the British capital's murder rate soared above that of New York. The 16-year-old boy is the latest victim of violent crime after an incident in Bow, East London, at about 6:05 p.m. last night. It is thought the teen was stabbed near a parade of shops just off the A12 and witnesses described seeing two people being stretchered away from the scene. The teenage victim was in a critical condition last night and two men were arrested. Scroll down for video. Weeks of carnage on the streets is beginning to take its toll on residents, and a mother of two who drove past the carnage said, "Too much is happening in this area. Every day there's someone getting hurt or killed. Can't wait to move away from this hopeless, horrific, disastrous place." The area was cordoned off as around 20 police vehicles descended upon the shops, which include a newsagent and a fried chicken takeaway. It comes as the past 2 months of bloodshed in London has seen the city overtake New York's murder rate, official police figures show, as Scotland Yard battles a 38% surge in killings since 2014. 15 people were killed in London in February, compared to 14 in New York. And the trend looks set to continue, with 22 killings in London in March, one more than the city on the other side of the Atlantic, where urban violence has long been prevalent. The murder epidemic continued on Sunday when Devoy Stapleton, 20, was knifed to death on his way home from a night out at 1 a.m. in Wandsworth. It is the 31st fatal stabbing in London this year. Police were called after he collapsed in a pool of blood at 1:10 a.m. just a street away from his home in Wandsworth, on a residential road near the Common where homes fetch over £1 million. He died at the scene less than an hour later. Last night his cousin Billy Shooter said, "My little cousin was murdered last night. My heart is broken." R.I.P. Devoy Stapleton. His family, who lived just a street away from the murder scene, were too upset to speak, but a large crowd gathered last night at the scene to leave flowers and tributes. A 21-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of murder and is currently in custody at a West London police station. The surge in killings comes as rates of rape, robbery, and violent offences in London have already eclipsed those in New York. While both London and New York have populations of around 8 million, Office of National Statistics figures published in October suggest you are almost 6 times more likely to be burgled in the British capital than in the U.S. city, and 1.5 times more likely to be robbed. London also has almost 3 times the number of reported rapes, but until February this year the murder rate in New York remained higher. The total number of London murders, even excluding victims of terrorism, has risen by 38% since 2014. In contrast, the number of murders in New York have fallen by 87% since its 1990s peak. Scotland Yard Commissioner Cressida Dick said social media sites could be to blame, claiming disputes on online messaging boards and video sites were escalating to murder within minutes. There's definitely something about the impact of social media in terms of people being able to go from slightly angry with each other to fight very quickly, she said. She also wants to increase the use of stop and search, which fell by up to 2/3 when Theresa May was Home Secretary. Scotland Yard, 32,000 officers, and the New York City Police Department, 40,000, both have budgets of £3 billion a year. But the NYPD has introduced a zero-tolerance approach to low-level crime and has flooded problem areas with patrols. Critics say Scotland Yard has done the exact opposite in the face of budget cuts, as it has screened out a number of low-level offences and moved officers from neighbourhood policing to pursue historic child abuse inquiries, terrorism and other high-profile inquiries. Joseph Williams Torres, 20, Walthamstow Lyndon Davis, 18, Chadwell Heath Russell Jones, 23, Enfield Hersey, 36, Hounslow Tyrone Silkett, 42, Hackney Balbircho Hall, 48, Southall Jermaine Johnson, 41, Walthamstow Benjamin Peakney, 20, Stratford Centre Abraham Badru, 26, Hackney David Potter, 50, Tooting High Street Unnamed Man, 23, Greenwich Unnamed Man, 20s, Wandsworth David Green, of the think tank Civitas, said, "There is now a higher risk of being a victim of violent crime in London than New York, which is pretty staggering. There is no way in which the police can be expected to deal with a bigger population in London and a lot of gang activity if you keep cutting budgets and reducing officer numbers. If you look at cities like New York and Boston, they have poured a lot of resources into diverting people from gang activity and putting more officers on the street. We have reduced visible policing. It's the exact opposite." Lyndon Davis, 18, the youngest to have been killed in March, was found suffering from a single stab wound in Chadwell Heath, East London on March 14. Joseph Williams Torres, 20, was killed the same evening as he sat in a stationary car in Close, Walthamstow. Russell Jones, 23, was ambushed outside shops near Ponders End Station, in Enfield and stabbed and shot to death. Father of two Tyrone Silkett, 42, died from knife wounds on March 18 after a St. Patrick's Day party. It is alleged the car mechanic got into a row over two girls at a party in Homerton and was attacked. Hersey, who lived as a trans woman called Naomi, was pronounced dead at the scene after being found with knife injuries at Heathrow Palace and Hazelmere Avenue, Hounslow, at 10:50 a.m. on Sunday. On March 19, Balbir Johal, 48, died after being stabbed in Southall, and the next day 41-year-old Jermaine Johnson died of knife wounds in Walthamstow. Romanian Benjamin Pickney is believed to have jumped into the fight in a bid to save his friend during the altercation at the Stratford Centre in East London on the 20th. The 20-year-old, who only arrived in Britain 2 months ago, died in his best friend's arms after being chased and stabbed by a gang in the busy shopping centre. On March 25, 26-year-old Abraham Badru was gunned down in Hackney. The university graduate, who was murdered in Dalston, East London, on Sunday, was awarded the National Police Bravery Award in July 2009. David Potter, 50, was found stabbed to death in a property on Tooting High Street on Monday 26. And an unnamed 23-year-old in Greenwich was killed on Thursday night, the final murder for the month of March. Sadiq Mohammed, 20, Kentish Town Abdikram Hassan, 17, Kentish Town Joseph Bosai, 30, Greenwich Sayed Khan, 49, Ilford Rotimiashi Banjo, 26, Southall Promise Nkenda, 17, Canning Town Sabri Chibani, 19, Streatham Common Lewis Blackman, 19, Kensington Hassan Oskan, 19, Barking Hannah Leonard, 55, Swiss Cottage Kwabena Nelson, 22, Tottenham Mark Smith, 48, Shingford Bulad Kabila, 41, Enfield Saida Hussain, 54, Ilford Wanol Mosaka, 39, Peckham Jacob Whittingham, charity head of programs for Fight for Peace, told the Sunday Times, "What's scary about London is the randomness of the crime. With young people in London, you have no idea if and when you may be the victim of a violent crime, that's why they feel the need to carry weapons." DCS Sean Yates, Scotland Yard's head of knife crime, blamed social media as an increasing factor in escalating grudges between youngsters that led to knife attacks. He also said courts were failing to enforce a two-strikes law aimed at jailing those caught with a knife twice, which was frustrating law enforcement. The sharp rise in the number of young people killed by knife crime in London has come despite Scotland Yard stepping up its use of suppression and enforcement tactics, carrying out more stop and search, more weapon sweeps and other activity on the streets. The Met Commissioner, Cressida Dick, has said reversing rising violent crime is a priority. Speaking in February, she said, "The frequency with which some of our young people are prepared to take each other's lives is shocking. London must come together to make it clear that this cannot continue. We will not police our way out of this problem." Cressida Dick continued, "There is a role for all of us, London's public, our partners and the police." She appealed directly to young people, saying, "There will be young people out today who are carrying knives. Stop and think. Do you really want your life to end? Or end someone else's and waste your own life in prison? My challenge to everyone in London is to ask each and every person to think about what you can do to help us tackle this blight on our city." Mayor of London Sadiq Khan requested an urgent meeting with the Prime Minister and Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police Service to discuss what can be done to tackle the evil of knife attacks on Britain's streets.
Tell me where the freak's at.